The stars shimmered against the void as the UES Defiant held position at the edge of the Tau CD system. Commander Jai-1 stood with perfect posture on the bridge, her dark eyes fixed on the main display. 7 Earth ships against 23 alien vessels. The odds didn't favor humanity, but Jai-1's expression revealed nothing but calm determination. "Status report," she ordered, her voice steady despite the tension filling the bridge. Lieutenant Dae-sung at Tactical looked up from his station. "Voidary vessels maintaining formation at 300,000 kilometers. Their weapons are hot, Commander." Jai-1 nodded slightly. Just 3 days ago, the scientific vessel Hawking had approached the alien fleet with open communications and peaceful intentions. The response had been the complete destruction of the Hawking and its crew of 42 scientists and explorers. Earth had scrambled to send a response fleet, with the Defiant leading the diplomatic rescue mission that had quickly evolved into humanity's first interstellar military engagement. "Open a channel," Jai-1 said. "One last attempt at diplomacy." The communications officer worked her console. "Channel open, Commander." Jai-1 stepped forward. "This is Commander Jai-1 of the United Earth Ship Defiant. We request you stand down and explain your unprovoked attack on our research vessel. We have no desire for conflict, but will defend ourselves if necessary." The response came moments later. The alien that appeared on screen had 6 eyes arranged in a circle and skin that shifted between shades of blue. Its voice, translated through the ship's computer, sounded almost amused. "Primitive species, your territory is now under the protection of the Voidary Collective. Surrender your vessels and prepare for integration. Resistance will result in your extinction." The alien commander's image vanished from the screen. "Well," Jai-1 said quietly, "that settles that." She turned to her crew. "Battle stations. Prepare the EMP warheads. Deploy the Phase 1 strategy." Alarms blared throughout the ship as crew members rushed to their combat positions. Jai-1 took her command chair, fingers tapping on the armrest. The ship's AI showed her the tactical situation and probable outcomes. Most indicated human defeat, but there was one path to victory. A narrow one. "The Voidary are advancing," reported Dae-sung. "Their weapons are powering up to maximum." Jai-1 nodded. "As expected. They think we're easy prey." She opened a channel to the other 6 Earth ships. "This is Commander Jai-1. Execute Phase 1. Remember your training. These aliens may have advanced technology." The human fleet regrouped, taking hits now as the Voidary found their range. The UES Dauntless exploded under concentrated fire, and Jai-1 acknowledged the loss with a moment of silent grief before refocusing on the battle. "Gravity systems charge," reported the engineering officer. "Deploy on my mark," Jai-1 said. "Target their flagship." The technology was experimental, reverse-engineered from theoretical physics rather than alien tech. The Voidary wouldn't have seen it before because no one had seen it before. A focused gravitational wave that could, for a brief moment, increase the apparent mass of a targeted area. "Mark." The device fired. For 3 seconds, the space around the Voidary flagship experienced gravity 10 times normal. The alien vessel's own engines, still firing at full thrust, suddenly worked against it as its apparent mass increased tenfold. Metal stressed and tore. The flagship broke apart, its reactor core breaching in a flash of blue-white energy. 2 more enemy vessels destroyed, reported Dae-sung. 3 damaged and withdrawing. The rest are regrouping. Jai-1 checked the tactical display. The human fleet had lost 2 ships, with 3 more damage. The odds were evening out, but the battle remained in the balance. "They're transmitting," said the communications officer with surprise in her voice. Jai-1 nodded. On screen, the 6-eyed alien commander appeared again, but the arrogance was gone from its posture. "What are you?" it demanded. "No developing species has ever." "We are human," Jai-1 interrupted. "We come from a world where we fought ourselves for thousands of years. Every technology we develop, we first think of how to use it as a weapon. We don't want war with the Voidari Collective, but if you force it upon us, we will bring the full measure of humanity's capacity for violence to bear." The alien was silent for a long moment. "We underestimated you." "Yes," Jaiwan agreed simply. "Don't make that mistake again. Withdraw your forces from this system. We will contact your leadership for proper diplomatic relations." After the alien commander cut the transmission, Dae-sun looked up from his station. "They're retreating, Commander. All vessels." Jaiwan nodded, allowing herself a small smile. "Send word to Earth. Tell them we need engineers here immediately. I want those disabled alien ships studied before they can send a recovery fleet." As the crew began damage control and rescue operations, Jaiwan stared at the tactical display, watching the retreating alien vessels. Humanity had just announced its presence to the galaxy in the clearest possible way. "They thought we would be easy prey," she murmured to herself. "They had no idea that humans have been preparing for this moment since we first looked up at the stars and wondered what threats might lurk between them." The Defiant's engines hummed as the ship moved to secure their unexpected prizes. Humanity's first interstellar battle was over. Their first interstellar war had just begun. Dr. Taiho walked through the sprawling laboratory complex buried deep beneath the red soil of Mars. Overhead lights illuminated rows of workstations where engineers and scientists worked with focused intensity. Some examined alien components with specialized tools. Others built prototypes that combined Voidari technology with human innovation. "Be careful with that plasma conduit," Taiho warned a young researcher. "The Voidari designed it to work at half the power we're pushing through it." The researcher nodded respectfully. "Yes, Doctor. We've reinforced the containment field with the carbon-titanium mesh you developed." Taiho smiled. In the 20 years since first contact, humanity had changed dramatically. The Mars War College had grown from a small military academy to the largest research center in the solar system. Here, the best minds from Earth and its colonies worked to understand and improve upon the technologies of the galaxy. "Doctor, the military delegation has arrived," announced his assistant. Taiho straightened his lab coat. Today's visitors were important. Officers who would command the new Titan-class dreadnoughts being built in Earth orbit. They needed to understand what they would be piloting. The delegation entered, led by Admiral Yoon, a veteran of the First Contact War. Behind him walked 5 captains in crisp uniforms. Their eyes widened as they took in the laboratory. "Welcome to Division 7, Taiho greeted them. "This is where we transform alien technology into human advantage." "Impressive operation," Admiral Yoon said, looking around. "Last time I visited, this was half the size." "We grow as our knowledge grows," Taiho replied. He guided them to a large circular platform at the center of the lab. "This is what you came to see." He pressed a button, and a holographic display activated. A massive ship appeared, rotating slowly in the air. The visitors stared in awe. "The Titan-class dreadnought," Taiho announced. "Humanity's answer to the combined fleets of any potential enemy." Admiral Yoon walked around the hologram, studying it from all angles. "It's larger than anything we've built before." 3 kilometers long, Taiho confirmed. "But size isn't what makes it special." He touched the display, causing the ship's outer hull to become transparent, revealing the internal systems. "This is our true achievement." The internal view showed a complex arrangement of systems, color-coded by their origin. The blue components are Voidari technology. They're FTL drives and shield generators, Taiho explained. The green sections are from the Eskari Dominion, gravity manipulation and sensor arrays. Red shows Tellurian weapon systems. One of the captains stepped forward. "But those components weren't designed to work together." "Exactly," Taiho said with obvious pride. "That's where human innovation comes in." The Voidari FTL drive was efficient, but slow by galactic standards. "We redesigned a quantum field generator and increased its speed by 40%. He zoomed in on one section. The Askari gravity technology was purely defensive. We adapted it to create localized gravity wells that can trap enemy ships or redirect incoming fire. Admiral Yoon nodded appreciatively. And the power systems. Perhaps our greatest achievement, Taiho said. He highlighted the ship's core. We combined the matter-antimatter technology from the Voidari with the quantum vacuum harvesting from the Palaxians. The result is a power source 3 times more efficient than anything in known space. The group moved through the laboratory as Taiho showed them prototypes of various systems. Each demonstration revealed the same pattern. Alien technology pushed beyond its original specifications by human ingenuity. The Voidari thought we would simply copy their technology, Taiho explained as they examined a weapons testing chamber. They failed to understand human nature. We don't just adopt. We adapt and improve. How soon until the first Titan is operational? Asked Admiral Yoon. That's a question for General Sujin, Taiho replied. She's overseeing the construction in Earth orbit. We provide the designs. She makes them reality. High above Earth, General Sujin floated in zero gravity, surveying the enormous construction project spread out before her. Through the viewport of her command module, she could see hundreds of workers in spacesuits moving around the skeletal frame of the first Titan-class dreadnought. Construction drones buzzed between sections, carrying components and welding massive plates into place. "Status report," she requested, touching the communication panel on her wrist. "Hull Section 15 is complete, General," reported her chief engineer. "We're beginning installation of the main reactor containment chamber." Sujin nodded with satisfaction. The project was running ahead of schedule, unusual for something of this scale and complexity. But humanity had been motivated since the First Contact War. The entire solar system had united with a single purpose: survival. Her transport pod moved along a guide rail, bringing her to the forward section of the massive vessel. Here, workers were installing the main command center. The bridge would be unlike anything in human ships before, designed not just for efficiency, but incorporating the best command systems from 7 alien species. "General, your visitors have arrived," her aide informed her. Sujin checked the time. The Mars delegation was prompt. "Bring them to Observation Platform 3. Minutes later, she greeted Admiral Yoon and Dr. Taiho's team. "Welcome to the future of human defense," she said, gesturing to the construction site. "The UES Prometheus, first of the Titan class." Admiral Yoon stared through the viewport, visibly impressed. It's one thing to see it as a hologram, quite another to see it being built. 17,000 personnel working in 3 shifts, Sujin explained. Components manufactured on Earth, Mars, Venus, and the moons of Jupiter. The entire solar system is contributing. "And the other alien species?" asked one of the captains. "What do they think of this project?" Sujin's expression hardened slightly. "Those who respect our boundaries are watching with interest. Those who don't," she shrugged, "they'll learn the same lesson the Voidari did." She guided them to a different viewport that offered a view of another construction area. There, 5 more massive frames were taking shape. "The Prometheus is just the beginning," she said. "By the end of the decade, we'll have a fleet of 6 Titans, each capable of facing an entire alien battle group." Dr. Taiho looked concerned. "The power requirements will be enormous. We're still testing the combined reactor design. That's why we're building them here," Sujin replied. "If something goes wrong, we want it to happen far from populated areas." As if on cue, a flash of blue light erupted from one section of the Prometheus. Alarms sounded, but Sujin remained calm. "Containment test," she explained to the startled visitors. "We're pushing all systems beyond their designed limits to find weaknesses." Admiral Yoon nodded approvingly. "The same philosophy we apply to our officers." "Exactly," Sujin agreed. "We learn more from failure than success. 20 years ago, we were caught unprepared. That will never happen again." She led them to a conference room with a view of Earth below. Maps of known space covered one wall, with human territory marked in blue. What had once been a single solar system now spread across 12 stars. The Prometheus launches in 3 months, Su-Jin told them. The Voidari and their allies believe we've reached the limit of our expansion. They think our technology has plateaued. She smiled slightly. They're wrong. Again. Dr. Tahoe studied the star maps. 20 years ago, we didn't know other intelligent life existed. Now we're one of the fastest-growing powers in this sector of the galaxy. And the most feared, added Admiral Yoon quietly. Su-Jin nodded. Fear is a useful tool when dealing with potential enemies, but our true strength isn't our weapons or ships. She looked at each of them in turn. It's our ability to take what others have created and make it better than they ever imagined possible. Outside, work continued on the massive vessels that would soon carry humanity's influence further into the stars. The adaptation phase was nearly complete. Soon would come the next test of humanity's place in the galaxy. Admiral Hyunwoo stood perfectly still on the bridge of the HMS Thermopylae, his weathered face illuminated by the glow of tactical displays. Around him, bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency as the massive human warship moved into position. Through the main viewport, countless stars shone against the darkness of space. Soon, many would be obscured by the largest fleet battle in known galactic history. Enemy force approaching the outer marker, Admiral, reported his tactical officer, Commander Jin-na. Her fingers danced across her console with practiced precision. 1,973 vessels confirmed. They'd formed into 5 attack groups. Hyunwoo nodded once. At 63 years old, he had fought in humanity's first conflicts against the Voidari. Now, nearly 50 years later, he commanded humanity's third fleet against a much larger threat. The Coalition of Aligned Species, an alliance of 17 alien civilizations united by their fear of human expansion. Status of our forces, he asked. All ships in position, Admiral. Drone carriers are ready for deployment. The Athena and Apollo groups are in flanking positions. Stealth destroyers report successful infiltration behind enemy lines. Hyunwoo studied the 3-dimensional battle map floating before him. 300 human warships against nearly 2,000 alien vessels. To anyone else, the odds would appear hopeless. But Hyunwoo felt only calm confidence. Open fleet-wide channel, he ordered. Jin-ha nodded. Channel open. Sir. Hyunwoo straightened his uniform jacket. This is Admiral Hyunwoo. In 5 minutes, we will engage the largest hostile fleet assembled in the recorded history of the galaxy. They believe their superior numbers guarantee victory. They are wrong. He paused, looking at the faces of his bridge crew. For 50 years, humanity has studied, adapted, and improved upon every aspect of warfare. Today, we demonstrate why quality defeats quantity. Execute Operation Anvil. Good hunting. The massive human ships began to move in perfect coordination. Unlike the enemy fleet, which advanced in traditional formation, the human vessels spread out in what appeared to be random patterns. But nothing about the movement was random. Every position had been calculated to maximize effectiveness against the approaching armada. They're launching their first attack wave, reported Jin-na. Hyunwoo watched as hundreds of enemy fighters swarmed toward the human lines. Deploy drones, first wave. From 6 specialized carrier ships, thousands of small, unmanned craft poured into space. Each drone was barely larger than a human fighter, but packed with advanced technology. They moved with impossible speed and precision, no human pilots to suffer from forces or reaction delays. Drones engaging enemy fighters, Jin-ha announced. On the tactical display, the 2 forces met. The alien fighters outnumbered the drones 3-1, but numbers meant little. The drones didn't fight like conventional craft. They calculated optimal attack vectors in microseconds, coordinated through quantum-entangled communication that couldn't be jammed, and sacrificed themselves without hesitation when tactical advantage required it. Within minutes, the alien fighter screen was in disarray. The drones didn't try to destroy every enemy fighter. Instead, they created gaps and confusion, disrupting the carefully planned alien attack. Phase 2, ordered Hyunwoo calmly. The human fleet suddenly accelerated. 20 heavy cruisers broke formation, dragging straight toward the largest concentration of enemy capital ships. It looked like suicide, until the cruisers launched their payloads. Gravity mines deployed, Jinha reported. The specially designed weapons activated simultaneously, creating localized distortions in space. Enemy ships suddenly found themselves dragged off course, colliding with allies or struggling against artificial gravitational wells that taxed their engines to breaking point. Enemy fleet attempting to compensate, Jinha said. Their command ships are redirecting forces to stabilize the formation. Hyunwoo nodded. Exactly as expected. Activate stealth destroyers. Behind the alien fleet, 12 human destroyers suddenly powered up their systems. For days, they had drifted, completely dormant, allowing the enemy fleet to pass around them. Now they came to life, their first actions targeting the alien command ships. Precision strikes on 23 command vessels, Jinha reported, unable to keep the satisfaction from her voice. 17 confirmed disabled. 6 destroyed. Hyunwoo watched as confusion spread through the enemy formation. Without central coordination, the alien ships began to respond independently, each commander making decisions based on limited information. Unity became chaos. They still don't understand, Hyunwoo said quietly. They think numbers win wars. Jinha glanced at him. Sir, throughout history, superior numbers meant victory, he explained, eyes still on the battle map. But that assumes roughly equal technology and tactics. The coalition built their strategy around overwhelming us with ships, but we built ours around making their numbers meaningless. The battle continued to unfold. The human fleet never engaged in traditional ship-to-ship combat. Instead, they targeted communication systems, disabled engines, and created pockets of isolation where small groups of human ships could cut off enemy vessels. Second drone wave launching, Jinha announced. This wave was different, smaller drones, but thousands more of them. Instead of engaging fighters, these targeted the propulsion and weapon systems of enemy capital ships. They attached to hulls, cut through armor with concentrated energy beams, and injected specialized nanites that disrupted systems from within. Incoming transmission from the coalition flagship, Jinha reported suddenly. Hyunwoo raised an eyebrow. Display. The main screen showed an alien with gray, scaled skin and 4 eyes. Admiral Skater of the Palaxian Empire, Supreme Commander of the Coalition Forces. Human, the alien said, its translator converting complex clicks into English. This slaughter serves no purpose. We did not want this war. Curious, Hyunwoo replied. Your fleet of 2,000 warships suggests otherwise. The alien commander's eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of agitation. Your species expands too rapidly. You take technology, not yours, and transform it into weapons. The coalition formed to contain this threat. And yet, Hyunwoo observed, here we are. Your containment force is being systematically disabled by the very weapons you feared we would create. Around them, the battle continued to turn decisively in humanity's favor. Despite the overwhelming numerical superiority of the alien fleet, nearly a third of their vessels were now disabled or destroyed. The human fleet had lost only 27 ships. We offer terms, the alien commander said. Withdraw to your current borders. Cease military development beyond certain limits. Accept coalition oversight of technological research. Hyunwoo shook his head. Counteroffer. The coalition dissolves its military alliance. Each species returns to independent relations with humanity. We continue our expansion, but establish clearer diplomatic protocols for new encounters. Unacceptable, the alien hissed. You cannot. I just destroyed a third of your fleet while losing less than 10% of mine. Hyunwoo interrupted. In 30 minutes, I'll have disabled another third. The terms will become less favorable as the battle continues. The alien commander stared in silence for several seconds. We require consultation. You have 10 minutes, Hyunwoo said. After that, we continue. When the transmission ended, Jin-ha looked at her admiral with admiration. Do you think they'll accept? They have no choice, Hyunwoo replied. Today's demonstration makes it clear that their strategy is fundamentally flawed. He gestured to the battle map. They built more ships. We built better tactics. They gathered numbers. We developed technologies specifically designed to render those numbers irrelevant. 8 minutes later, the coalition commander returned with reluctant acceptance of Hyunwoo's terms. The battle, which history would call the Great Protean Engagement, was over. As the coalition fleet began its withdrawal, Hyunwoo ordered his ships to assist damaged alien vessels, providing medical aid and emergency repairs, even to those who had been enemies moments before. Generous of you, Admiral, observed his executive officer. Not generosity, Hyunwoo corrected. Strategy. We've proven our military superiority. Now we demonstrate our humanity. Both messages will spread throughout the galaxy. From the bridge of the Thermopylae, he watched as human medical ships moved among the disabled alien vessels. The greatest fleet battle in galactic history had ended not with the annihilation of the enemy, but with the beginning of a new understanding. They came to contain us, Hyunwoo said quietly. They'll leave knowing that's impossible. The question now is whether they'll learn to cooperate with us instead. The massive space station named Concordia hung in orbit around Jupiter, its gleaming hull reflecting the gas giant's swirling colors. Inside, diplomat Mireille adjusted her formal uniform as she walked through wide corridors filled with representatives from across the galaxy. At 42, she had already served humanity for 20 years in various diplomatic roles, but never at an event of this magnitude. Remarkable to see them all together without weapons pointed at each other, commented her aide, Dong-hyun, walking beside her. Mireille nodded. The gathering was unprecedented. Representatives from 112 different species, many of whom had histories of conflict spanning thousands of years. Yet here they were, brought together by a common interest, learning how humans approached war and defense. Ambassador Mireille called a voice. She turned to see a tall, willowy alien with iridescent skin approaching. Ambassador Telix of the Eskari Dominion had once been among humanity's fiercest critics. Now he greeted her with the traditional human handshake they had taught him. Ambassador Telix, I'm pleased you could attend, Mireille said warmly. I would not miss it, the alien replied. When the species that defeated the combined coalition offers to share its military philosophy, only fools would refuse the invitation. They walked together toward the main assembly hall. Around them, humans mingled with aliens of every description, some towering 3 meters tall, others barely reaching Mireille's knee. Some breathed methane through special masks, while others floated in bubbles of liquid. Yet despite these differences, all had come with the same purpose. Tell me, Telix said quietly, why does humanity do this? Share your advantages. After the Coalition War, you could have continued expanding without opposition. Mireille considered her answer carefully. Because true security doesn't come from being the strongest, she replied. It comes from creating a system where conflict becomes unnecessary. The assembly hall doors opened before them, revealing a vast chamber filled with thousands of delegates. The murmur of conversation, spoken, clicked, whistled, and transmitted, created a background hum as they took their places. Mireille approached the central platform. As the host of the summit, she would deliver the opening address. Looking out at the gathered representatives, she felt the weight of the moment. For centuries, humans had been feared as conquerors. Today, they might begin changing that perception. A signal indicated it was time. The hall quieted as she stepped to the podium. Distinguished representatives, she began, her voice carried by translators to every delegation. Welcome to the first Galactic Defense Summit. I am Diplomat My Ray of Earth, and I thank you for accepting our invitation." She paused, looking across the sea of alien faces, some with multiple eyes, others with none at all. For 10,000 years, the galaxy operated on principles of minimal conflict, she continued. Species avoided war when possible, but few truly prepared for it. Humanity entered this community having spent our entire history preparing for wars that might never come. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some delegates shifted uncomfortably. This fundamental difference in approach made many fear us, Mayray acknowledged, and perhaps with reason. In just 1 century, we expanded across 57 star systems. We adapted technologies from dozens of species and improved them in ways their creators never imagined. We developed military doctrines that allowed our smaller fleets to defeat much larger forces. She let the words hang in the air before continuing. But humanity's goal was never conquest. It was survival. And we have learned that true survival depends not on standing alone, but on creating systems of mutual security. The great doors at the back of the hall opened, and a group of human military officers entered in formal dress uniforms. Among them walked veterans of the Coalition War, including the legendary Admiral Hyunwoo, now in his 90s, but still standing tall. "Today," Mayray said, "we begin sharing what we've learned, not to make you more like us, but to create a galaxy where all species can defend themselves effectively, where aggression fails because defense is stronger than offense." Later that day, Mayray observed from the back of a teaching chamber as Admiral Hyunwoo addressed a group of alien military leaders. The room was designed like an academy classroom, with the aliens seated before holographic displays. "The fundamental mistake of the Coalition," the old admiral explained, "was assuming that warfare is primarily about destruction. It is not. It is about achieving objectives with minimal cost." He activated a hologram showing the famous battle at Procyon. "Here," he pointed, "the Coalition concentrated their firepower in traditional formation. Massive, overwhelming force applied directly. But observe our response." The display showed the human fleet's unconventional deployment patterns. We never engaged their main force directly. Instead, we identified critical vulnerabilities: command ships, communication nodes, navigational systems. By targeting these selectively, we rendered their numerical advantage meaningless. An alien with a crest of spines raised an appendage. "But surely, Admiral, such tactics only work against unprepared enemies. Now that your methods are known, they can be countered." Hyunwoo smiled. "Precisely. And that brings us to the most important principle: adaptation. The specific tactics we used at Procyon would never work again, so we never used the same approach twice." Mayray slipped out as the discussion continued. In other rooms throughout the station, similar sessions were taking place. Humans teaching alien representatives about everything from ship design to strategic doctrine to emergency response. She made her way to a quieter observation deck overlooking Jupiter. The gas giant's storm systems churned below, a reminder of the raw power of nature. "Quite a view," said a voice behind her. She turned to find Representative Xal of the Voidari Collective, the same species that had first attacked humanity nearly a century before. "Representative." She greeted him with a diplomatic nod. "I'm glad your people chose to attend." The six-eyed alien moved to stand beside her. "Not all approved," he admitted. "Some still remember our early encounters with humans." "As do we," Mayray said. "But holding to old conflicts serves no one." "A curious philosophy from a species so skilled at warfare," Xal observed. Mayray turned to face the alien directly. "Perhaps it is because we understand warfare so well that we recognize its limitations. Victory through combat is temporary. Victory through alliance is lasting. And yet you teach us all to fight better," Xal noted. "Some might call that contradictory." "We teach defense," Mayray corrected. "When every species can protect itself effectively, aggression becomes pointless. The cost outweighs any possible gain." The alien was silent for a moment, considering. A paradigm shift indeed, he finally said. For millennia, the galaxy operated on the principle that the strongest dominated. You propose a system where strength is shared. Not just shared, Mayray said. Distributed, decentralized. No single power, including humanity, should be able to dominate the others. On the final day of the summit, Mayray signed the Jupiter Accords alongside representatives from 78 species. The document established the Galactic Defense Network, a system of shared technology, training, and rapid response protocols designed to protect all member worlds. As the ceremony concluded, Ambassador Telix approached her again. Your summit has succeeded beyond expectations, he said. Though I confess, some of us still don't fully understand humanity's motivation. Mayray smiled. Consider Earth's history, she explained. For thousands of years, our nations fought each other. Technology advanced, weapons became more destructive, but the conflicts continued. It was only when we created systems of mutual security, where an attack on one triggered a response from all, that lasting peace became possible. And you seek to replicate this on a galactic scale, Telix observed. We do, Mayray confirmed, not out of altruism, but pragmatism. A galaxy of well-defended, allied species is more secure for everyone, including humanity. As delegates departed for their homeworlds in the days that followed, they carried with them not just new knowledge but a new vision. The species that had been feared as conquerors had instead become architects of a new galactic order, one built not on dominance but on distributed strength. The paradigm had shifted. The relentless march of humanity's war machine had transformed into something unexpected. The foundation of peace. The massive command center of the Terran Promise hummed with activity as officers from dozens of species monitored their stations. At the center stood Admiral Junho, his weathered face illuminated by the glow of tactical displays, showing the greatest threat the galaxy had ever faced. The void swarm had first been detected by long-range sensors at the galaxy's edge. At first, scientists thought it was simply an unusual cosmic phenomenon, a cloud of dark matter perhaps, or a cluster of black holes. Then the first border colonies went silent. By the time scout ships reached them, nothing remained but stripped planets and scattered debris. Status report, Junho ordered, his voice calm despite the tension filling the bridge. Void swarm continuing to advance on all fronts, reported Commander Tajun, the tactical officer. Their main concentration is approaching the Orion Arm. Estimated arrival at the defense line in 27 minutes. Junho nodded. Around him, the command staff, a collection of the finest military minds from 300 species, waited for his orders. The United Species Defense Force had been preparing for this moment since the first reports came in 6 months ago. Now, they would face an enemy unlike any the galaxy had encountered before. Open channel to all fleet commanders, Junho said. The communications officer worked her console. Channel open, Admiral. Junho straightened his uniform and looked directly at the camera. His image would be transmitted to thousands of ships spread across a defensive line spanning several light years. This is Admiral Junho. The enemy approaches, and with it the greatest test our galaxy has ever faced. The void swarm has consumed 3 galaxies before ours. In each case, they encountered divided species, unprepared for the scale of the threat. Today, they face something different. He paused, letting his gaze sweep across the diverse command staff before him. Beings with scales, fur, tentacles, crystalline structures, and more, all united under a common cause. For centuries, the galaxy feared us, Junho continued. They called us warmongers. They weren't wrong about our capacity for violence. They just failed to understand its purpose. Humanity did not perfect the art of war to conquer stars, but to defend them. He gestured to the tactical display showing the massive Allied fleet. Today, we stand together. 300 species, 10,000 ships, one purpose. Execute Operation Bulwark. Good hunting. Across the vastness of space, the Allied fleet moved with precision born from years of joint training exercises. Ships of every size and design formed into battle groups, each with specific roles in the coming conflict. The Void Swarm approached, not ships in the conventional sense, but living constructs of dark energy and unknown matter. They absorbed rather than destroyed, converting all they touched into more of themselves. First contact in 5 minutes, announced Tajun. Enemy numbers consistent with projections. Approximately 17,000 constructs in the first wave. Junho turned to the alien standing beside him, High Commander Velix of the Askari Dominion, his second in command. Your people faced something similar in their ancient history, didn't they? He asked quietly. The tall, willowy alien nodded. On a much smaller scale, a local phenomenon that nearly destroyed our civilization before we contained it. This, he gestured at the display. This is beyond anything in recorded history. And yet, Junho said with quiet confidence, we will prevail. Because unlike those other galaxies, we are prepared. The front line of the Allied fleet engaged the Void Swarm. Specialized energy weapons, developed jointly by human and Tellurian scientists, fired concentrated bursts that disrupted the swarm's cohesion. Some of the dark constructs shattered into harmless particles. Others adapted, changing their structure to resist the attacks. They're learning, observed Tajun, adjusting their resonance frequency to counter our weapons. As expected, Junho replied. Implement Phase 2. Throughout the fleet, weapon systems automatically recalibrated, changing frequencies and attack patterns. This was the core of the defense strategy, continuous adaptation, never using the same approach long enough for the swarm to develop immunity. The battle spread across millions of kilometers. In some sectors, Allied ships held the line. In others, the swarm pushed through, only to encounter secondary and tertiary defense layers. Palaxian Division reports heavy losses in Sector 7, reported the communications officer. Requesting reinforcement. Junho studied the tactical display. Divert the 42nd Human Voidari Joint Squadron to their position, and send the Quantum Strike vessels to Sector 9. They're about to be flanked. Hour after hour, the battle rage. The Allied forces suffered losses, but the Void Swarm's advance slowed, then stopped, then began to reverse in key sectors. Unlike previous galaxies it had consumed, this one fought back with constantly evolving tactics and technologies. On the 4th day of continuous battle, Junho finally allowed himself a brief rest. He sat in his private quarters, reviewing casualty reports and planning the next phase of the defense. A soft chime announced a visitor. Enter, he called. The door slid open to reveal Elder Xal, the Voidari representative to the Galactic Council. The six-eyed alien entered slowly, his age evident in his careful movements. Admiral, the Elder greeted him. The Council has been monitoring your defense efforts. Junho stood respectfully. Elder, I didn't expect the Council to send its most senior member to a war zone. These are unprecedented times, Xal replied. He moved to the viewport, gazing out at the distant flashes of combat. Do you know, Admiral, that my grandfather fought against humans in the First Contact War? I did not, Junho admitted. He told me stories of the terror your species inspired, your adaptability, your capacity for violence, your relentless innovation in warfare. The alien turned back to face him. For generations, we feared these qualities. Now, they may be our salvation. Junho nodded. Humanity never sought to dominate the galaxy, Elder. We sought to protect ourselves in a universe we believed to be hostile. When we discovered it was not universally hostile, we adapted our purpose. From conquerors to guardians, Xal observed. A remarkable transformation. Not a transformation, Junho corrected. A clarification of purpose. The tools remained the same. The goal simply became clearer. The war against the Void Swarm lasted 3 years. The battle lines moved back and forth across the galaxy's edge as the Allied forces learned to counter each adaptation of the enemy. Worlds were lost and retaken. Ships and crews made heroic sacrifices to hold critical positions. Through it all, the command structure that humanity had helped create, decentralized yet coordinated, adaptive yet principled, proved its worth against an enemy that consumed through assimilation. In the final confrontation, the Allied fleet drove the remnants of the swarm into a collection of dying stars. Specially designed resonance bombs, technology combining the knowledge of 17 different species, collapsed the stars into a chain of black holes, trapping what remained of the enemy. 1 month after the final battle, Admiral Junho stood before the full Galactic Council. Representatives from every sentient species in the galaxy had gathered to witness the proceedings. "Admiral Junho," intoned the council speaker, "you stand before us as the commander of the force that saved our galaxy from consumption. How would you assess the outcome of this conflict?" Junho considered his words carefully. "The victory belongs not to any one species, but to the alliance we forged together. What defeated the Void Swarm was not superior firepower, but superior cooperation, the ability of 300 different species to act as one when necessary, while preserving the unique strengths of each." The speaker nodded. For centuries, humanity was classified as a potential threat to galactic stability. Today, we formalize a new designation. The Great Seal of the Council illuminated, displaying a new symbol, a shield with a human hand supporting it from below. Henceforth, humanity shall be known as the Guardians, recognized as essential protectors of galactic peace and security. Applause rippled through the chamber, expressed in countless different ways by countless different beings. Many of these same species had once feared human expansion, had fortified their borders against the possibility of human aggression. As Junho left the council chamber, he was met by a group of young officers from a dozen different species, the next generation of the United Defense Force. "Is it true what they say, Admiral?" asked one young alien. "That humans always knew this day would come? That your species prepared for war for thousands of years because you somehow sensed threats like the Void Swarm existed?" Junho smiled slightly. "No, we prepared because it was in our nature to prepare, to imagine the worst so we could survive it. We built our war machine not because we knew what was coming, but because we feared what might be." He looked at the diverse group of young officers. The true achievement wasn't building the war machine, it was transforming it from a tool of conquest into a shield for all. Remember that lesson. The capacity for violence is neither good nor evil, it's the purpose behind it that matters. As they walked together toward the waiting ships, Junho felt a deep satisfaction. The relentless march of humanity's war machine had come full circle. The species once feared as conquerors had become the guardians all had needed when darkness came from beyond the stars.